on my Star Trek binge. That's all I'm going to talk about for Star Trek today. We actually got a lot of it. I'll be talking about it forever. We got a lot of stuff to cover, though, today. We got some really good stories. And let's go ahead and start with the first one. Let's just jump right into it. I came across a story in this, and I thought, I wonder if I can find 4 more and make it a top 5 list. And I was, because it happens surprisingly a lot. Now, we're going up into the air. Now, the Carpenter copter cannot reach the altitudes that we want to get to, because we gotta go high. We gotta go way high up. So, let's hop on board our newest air vehicle. The Jason Jet is still being constructed. We're gonna hop on the Dead Rabbit dirigible. Now, let's get inside. Now, I gotta turn it on, and then we'll fly up. So, now I know the machine is a little loud, and I get that. It's just gonna be a short while. I'm sorry. We bought it. It's from a World War II German blimp factory. So, okay, there we go. Sorry. Sometimes it starts off a little loud, and we just we'll have to bear with it. Dead Rabbit dirigible but it's roomy, and it's going to get us as high as we need to be. That's not a pot joke. We actually have to go up in elevation. We are going to start off. And because of all my international listeners, because there's so many of you, I went through the task of adding kilometers in this section. So there you go. See? I'm not a total ethnocentric dude. I'll throw kilometers in there every once in a while. Not centimeters, though. Those are lame. We're going up 2 miles, which equals 3 kilometers. And we're in the year 1971. So we're in the Dead Rabbit dirigible, just kind of floating there. We see a passenger plane flying towards us. Now, I should have warned you to wear your rain jackets, because huge lightning storm. I didn't even know this was possible. Not lightning storms. I knew those were possible, but huge lightning storm. Yes, this segment will have a lot of sound effects. And lightning struck this plane so hard, according to the Wikipedia article, the plane disintegrated. I didn't even know that was possible. I thought planes were built to take lightning strikes. But anyways, I imagine it's like just slowly got vaporized. Disintegrate is a very specific term. But anyway, so apparently this plane disintegrated. And in that plane, wearing her seatbelt like a good girl, like you should, is Julianne Kopecky. The plane, imagine you're sitting in a plane, you're scared because it's kind of jostling, you have a bit of turbulence, there's lightning strikes. All of a sudden, straight up like 1980s special effects lightning hits your plane, goes all over, and the plane just falls apart around you. You're strapped to your seat. Now, she fell. This teenage girl fell 2 miles to the earth. She flies past the blimp. We probably could have helped her, but I don't know if she yelled the whole way. She probably passed out at some point. Smashes into the ground and survives. But she's in the Amazon rainforest. So she has a huge gash in her arm, broken collarbone. She's like, okay, my dad taught me that if you find a river or a stream, follow it downstream because there's a better chance that you'll find civilizations. Not 100%. So she's walking along through the Amazon jungle along the stream. All she brought with her was some candy. I mean, you pretty much have what you had in your pockets if you flew out of a plane. Unless, like, luggage was falling periodically and you, like, open it up and you're like, oh, awesome, there's a cheeseburger in here. For 11 days, she trudged through the Amazon until she found a boat. And you think, oh, then she took the boat to town. Her first instinct was this. Her dad also taught her, if you ever have like a wound, like a deep wound, pour gasoline on it. And it'll like help disinfect it. And that was her first instinct because her arm was super just like gross at this point. She was getting bit by all these bugs. She was getting super infected. She gets gasoline. There's like a little boat shed by. She pours it on her arm. And by her count, and I would lose count after maybe the first 10. By her count, 35 maggots squirmed out of her arm. Now, again, was she just looking at it the whole time and she's like, 28? 29? Like, really? She counted 35? But anyways, I believe her. 35 maggots came out of her arm and she's like, oh, it feels much more flexible. Lumberjacks who the boat belonged to showed up and they're like, oh my god, you're totally gross. Let's take you to the town. And she survived. Now, and somehow we saw all of that from our dirigible, and we were up there for 11 days. We could have at least thrown her down like a ham sandwich or something like that. Now we're going to World War II, and it should not shock you that most of these stories take place in World War II. World War II. Nicholas Alkemade. So we gotta actually take the blimp up for this one. That person was 2 miles. We're actually going up. We're going up to 3.4 miles now. So the blimp rises silently this time, goes up a little bit higher, and we're back in World War II. Now, luckily, we're invisible. I'm just adding that in, otherwise we'd be toast, because we're in the middle of a raging battle between the Nazis and the Allies. And so Nicholas is in a bomber, a U.S. bomber. And then you got the Nazi planes. Oh no, Captain, we got it all shot up. The plane that I forgot. Oh, the bomber. That's what I meant to say. The bomber. Bullets are just shredding this bomber to pieces. Plane catches on fire. Now, this guy, Nicholas, is like, oh no. So Nicholas is like, I'm not going to burn to death. So they have their parachutes on. So they're in the plane. Bullets are flying through, place is on fire. And he's like, uh-oh, I better get out of here. I mean, that's probably an understatement. And then he realizes that the parachute he's wearing is also on fire. So he's like, that's not good. So he goes, I still rather would die on impact than burn to death. So he jumps out of an airplane 3.4 miles up in the air, which is 5.4 kilometers. And he's just falling. Hits a bunch of pine trees. And then into a soft pile of snow. Sprained his leg. That was it. He woke up, and when he hits the ground, he's like, oh, what happened to my, I don't know why he has an accent all of a sudden, but what happened to me ankle? Gestapo shows up, the people you don't want to find you after a plane crash. And they start questioning him. And he's like, yeah, I just fell out of that plane. And they're like, that's impossible. You only have a sprained leg. You say you fell 5.4 kilometers. And he's like, well, 3.4 miles in regular measurement. But yeah, I fell. They start questioning him. They find the wreckage of his plane. They believe him. The Gestapo, I don't know what I would do with this. The Gestapo gave him a certificate proving that he fell out of the plane and survived. What would you do with a certificate from the Gestapo? Like, you don't really want to hang it up on your wall, but you also don't want to, throw it away because it proves that you survived this plane crash. But, I mean, how do you I mean, that's a hard thing when he's telling his kids that story. And then these guys showed up, and they were pretty friendly, and they gave me the certificate. You're, holding it where your, hand is covering the swastika, and they're like, Grandpa, what's behind your hand? And he's like, oh, it's nothing. And he just puts it away in his scrapbook. Now we gotta go up and he was a POW, and he was released after the war. We're going up farther. So that last one, 3.4 miles, now we're going up 4.1 miles. Not a huge jump, but it's a huge jump if you're jumping out of a plane. 6.5 kilometers in the air, that's where we're at. And we're in one of the most badass named vehicles ever. It's the Flying Fortress. When I did the episode about the ghost blimp, I said there's no way dudes would ever pick up chicks in a blimp. If the blimp was called the Flying Fortress, you would. The Flying Fortress, just the visual, it's basically a plane made of guns. Is what a Flying Fortress is. And a bomber. But anyway, so now we're with Mcgee, and we're 4.1 miles up. You know where this is going? They're flying in the Flying Fortress. And he's the ball gunner. So he's underneath the plane, and it's straight up like some Star Wars stuff. He's just blowing planes to bits. But you only gotta miss one to have a bad day. And what happens is a Nazi fighter blows off the wing of this Flying Fortress. So he's in the ball. Now, all the gunfire and everything, of course, tore through his parachute. And he's like, hey man, when you gotta go, you gotta go. He just jumped out of the plane. Smashes into the glass ceiling of a railroad. They're over France, just smashes. That was enough to break his fall. So even though he's fallen 4.1 miles, he hit the glass, it softened the blow. He crashed into the railroad, not onto the tracks, but into the railroad station. Bunch of broken bones, massive internal injuries, and his right arm was almost severed. And he's probably heard about that other guy who just had a sprained leg, and he's like, yeah, look at this certificate I got. And Alan's like, why are you covering up that part of the certificate? Anyways, he was also captured by the Nazis, and they repaired him, kept him as a POW for a while, and then they released him after the war. So you're like, okay, we got all this stuff. Do we have any on the Eastern Front? Well, we do, and to do that, we're going to have to go up just a little bit higher. Now we're at 4.4 miles, and again, World War II. That's 7 kilometers. And we're talking to Ivan Chisov, bomber navigator during World War II. So we're still in that time zone. Bomber Russian bomber. It should say by the name, but and we're on the Eastern Front, but it's a Russian bomber. It's just getting lit up again. Oh no, can't get him, Captain, we can't get him. And he's like, oh, I don't know why you're speaking English. I don't know why I'm speaking English, but keep shooting. Doesn't matter. The Russian bomber gets all shot up. Now, he jumps out of his plane, and he had a parachute, a totally fine working parachute, but there was such a huge battle going around, he goes, I'm just going to fall. I'm going to fall until I get clear of the battle, and then I'm going to pull my parachute, and then I'll be safe. But if I pull my parachute now, the Nazis will just shoot me out of the sky as I'm parachuting down. Now, that's what he was thinking. This is really what was going on in his head. Okay, this is the plan. I'm going to jump out of the plane, I'm going to fall for a while, and then and he passed out before he could enact his plan. He was falling so far, he passed out. He hit the ground. Now, the one guy hit the trees, the girl hit the Amazon, and she had that seat strapped to her, so that helped. The other guy hit the glass ceiling. He hit the side of a snowy ravine going between 120 miles and 150 miles per hour. Massive spinal injuries. He was in critical condition for a month. He survived. They ended up patching him up, and he lived. Now we're on to our number 1 Guinness World Record highest fall without a parachute. Vesna Volvic. Now, Vesna Volvic, she wasn't a World War II pilot. She wasn't asked to go in a combat zone, and neither did the teenage girl. But Vesna Volvic was a stewardess. Vesna Volvic was a stewardess, and we're in the year 1972. She's in a plane, and she said the day the plane was ready to fly. She actually wasn't supposed to work that day. They got her confused with another woman named Vesna, which is kind of a cute name. I'd date a girl named Vesna. You can call her Vessie for short, or just V. But anyways, she wasn't supposed to work that day, and she said even when they were prepping the plane, she goes, everyone was acting kind of weird. Everyone wanted to go out and buy stuff for their family. She said the captain kind of locked himself in his room. She said the co-pilot, what was odd was he was talking about his kids, and she goes, the tone of his voice was almost like no one else in the world had kids but him. But anyway, so they're in this plane, and they're high in the sky. At this point, they are 6.25 miles in the sky, 10 kilometers. And a bomb goes off. And then you can just imagine in slow motion, you're sitting there. She's standing there. She's watching the plane deform in slow motion as this bomb just obliterates everyone and the plane starts to break up. Now, she was towards the tail end of the craft, and a beverage cart ran into her and pushed her all the way back as far as it could into the tail of the craft. And so when the plane, the tail side broke off and started falling, and the rest of the plane pretty much literally disintegrated in the air. And she was pushed and pinned down in the tail as it was falling to Earth, 6.25 miles. Smashed into the ground. Luckily, there was a former World War II medic there who saved her life. But she was in a coma for a month. She doesn't remember anything about the event. She has no memory from an hour before the bomb went off to waking up in the hospital room after months of recovery. It's the funniest side note to that story is, so that's the Guinness Book of World Records, so that's the longest a human's ever fallen without dying without a parachute. But she ended up becoming a critic of the government. I believe she was Serbian. She started becoming a critic of the government in her later years. And the government, they couldn't throw her in jail because she was this big national hero because she survived this terrorist attack. But their retaliation was, oh no, it wasn't a bomb that blew that plane up. It was the Croatians, but they used the surface-to-air missile, and those only go 7,000 feet up, so yeah, that plane wasn't that high. And that was the only, and of course that didn't stick, her world record stuck around and everything like that, but that's it. Top 5 people who survived falls. That was a clip from our daily podcast, Dead Rabbit Radio. Dead Rabbit Radio is available anywhere that you listen to podcasts. It's daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime news. If you want to hear the full episode that this clip came from, check the link below. Please like and subscribe. And hit that little bell, too. That does some magical stuff. Thanks, guys.